I like cool things. Maybe that is juvenile of me. One of my favorite movies of all time is Rango. I like the way that there's a really, really cool snake. And I see it and I point at the screen and I say, that snake is really cool and I like him. But I also really like that this movie makes me think about who I am and who I want to be and how I can be that person. It's such a great mixture of getting me this feeling of existential questioning and helping me to figure out the answers to that, and also getting me a really cool snake that I can point and smile at. If you haven't seen the movie Rango, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about it.
Just a side note with today's recording, we've got a very special guest and my dear friend Isabel Petty. I, having talked to her about her own life, can vouch. She has put in the work to discover the truth. So I would very much give her word a listen because she's got a lot of good things to say. With that, we'll see you in the rest of the episode. I haven't thought about Rango as much as I should have. I feel like a sinner because of this.
Well, lucky for you, probably not a week of my life goes by that I don't think about Rango.
You balance us out. You balance us out. Well, Isabel, how are you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here.
I'm very glad you are here. Isabel is a movie genius.
Had you seen it before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was thinking about it on my drive here and just kept remembering the scenes and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a good movie.
Had you seen it before we watched it that night?
I when I was 7, but that hardly counts. The only thing I remembered of it was the scene where the bird grabs the guy and he says, "Son of a..."
I also watched it when I was younger, and I don't really count it. I always want to just say the first time I watched it was when I was a senior in high school, because I feel like that was when I got it. Since this was your first time watching it with an adult's mindset, what were just your overall impressions?
I liked the movie. I actually really liked it. I was thinking about how a lot of kids' movies recently have felt so bland to me. And that was disheartening because I was used to really liking kids' movies. But this is the first one that I watched in a long time where I felt like it was not just a kids' movie, where it was actually more than simply being for kicks and giggles.
Right. Well, and I think that something that really speaks to that is the fact that I've talked to a lot of people about this movie. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Just putting that out there. Is it perfect? No. I've seen a lot of movies that I think are better than this one, but this one is still a favorite. So I've talked about it a lot. And everybody I talk to, it seems to be they either like it if they have seen it since becoming an adult, or they dislike it if they watched it when they were a kid. Which could... we'll save the discussion for another time on whether or not that means it's a bad movie or a bad kids movie, I guess.
Well, when my mom came in, she said, "This is my favorite movie." Happened, and I was like,
yeah, and really good. I mean, so I don't know if I would say that it was made for adults, but it was made in a way that adults can appreciate it just as much as kids. And I think that shows in the fact that from what I've seen, the information I've gathered, adults tend to appreciate it more than kids.
yeah. And I guess it's not the fact that it's deep, complex themes, but it's almost just that they made the movie with care so that you could enjoy it. And that's what's missing from a lot of kids' movies. I rate it an 8 out of 11.
If I'm being unbiased, I'd probably give it a 9 or 9.5 out of 11.
But if you were being biased,
if I were just fully embracing what this movie means to me, I'd probably give it 10 or 11.
oh heck yeah.
I honestly would say about a 9 out of 11, just because I love how you can get such meaning out of it. I feel with Rango, especially his character development throughout the whole movie, and just how he was able to grow and learn and be yourself, and then you can apply that. And so I like those kind of movies that I feel you can be able to take them aside and learn something from them. And so I feel Rango, definitely a 9 out of 11.
We like those kinds of movies too. We like those kinds of movies.
Well, and something that I appreciate so much about it is that it shows that a movie doesn't have to require a filmmaking class and a degree in writing to take meaning out of it. And it doesn't have to be some like super like indie artistic masterpiece or whatever to have genuine quality and worth and something that it can mean to.
Yeah, totally.
It's a simple movie, but there is still a depth and a value and a quality to it.
It made me happier when I was done watching it. And I think that is because legitimately it had something good to offer. You should watch it too. Camera.
Yeah. This is going to be a less strict spoiler warning than most of our reviews because it really doesn't matter that much.
I get, but still, if you haven't seen it, go ahead.
It is a great time. Before we get into like the really deep stuff, I just want to rave about some of the more general artistic choices of it. I love the animation style so much. It looks so dirty and gross, but like in a good way.
Yeah, that was actually, when I was little, I thought it was really creepy. And then I was expecting it to be creepy again, watching it when I was older, but it wasn't creepy anymore. So shows that I've grown, and it shows the movie holds up pretty well.
Yeah, and it hasn't aged like at all. The movie is like 15 years old now, and it looks better than some things that are coming out today.
No, that's so true.
And the character design in particular, I think I said this before we watched it, is a huge standout to me. Because very often, particularly in animation, you'll look at a crowd of characters and just like point to the handful that are the main characters because they just have way more detail and way more like character to how they're designed. You can't do that in this movie. If you've watched it, you know who the main characters are, right? But like, if you're just like looking at all of the different townspeople that you meet in this movie, they all have enough screen time that they could be like one of the main characters.
Yeah.
There's this super cool scorpion dude with like a hook, like a metal hook instead of a stinger, and he like pins it into his hat and lifts it up, and he's got like a bushy mustache. You see him for like 2 seconds of screen time, and he has like one of the coolest designs ever.
Yeah, it's like, I almost feel like this is a movie where they took the art of 3D animation and actually made something out of it. Instead of all of the like new Disney movies that come out where you think this would have been so much better if it was 2D animated.
Right.
Because they actually are caring about the art that they're doing. Anyway.
This is a movie that benefits from being 3D. And maybe I'll get stoned for saying this. I think a lot of 3D animated movies you can't see that with.
Well, we've got a funny little clip here that gets into one of the first gifts.
Ma. Crunchy, creamy, cookie, candy, cupcake. Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top. The stage is set. The night moist with apprehension. Alone in her chamber, the princess prepares to take her own life. It is far better to nourish worms than to live without love. She reaches for the poisoned chalice. Meanwhile, the wicked Malvolio plots his ascension to the throne. While her aging father lies gravely ill. Yes, I'm gravely ill. Hark! Who goes there? 'Tis I, the much-anticipated hero returning to rescue his emotionally unstable maiden. Unhand her, you jailers of virtue, or taste the bitter sting of my vengeance. The sting of my... Dr. Marks? Dr. Marks, I'm not getting anything from you. People, we've talked about this. Acting is reacting. Victor, you were wooden. There, I said it. Mr. Timms, you were good. Perhaps a little too good. What's that, Victor? My character's undefined? That's absurd. I know who I am. I'm the guy, the protagonist, the hero. Every story needs a hero. I mean, who else is better qualified to bask in the adulation of his numerous companions? The stage is waiting. The audience thirsts for adventure. Who am I? I could be anyone.
I just have to, This movie's so random. At the beginning, they totally show he's like clinically insane, but they never expound on that at all. He's talking to his plants, and then he's like, and then they just never bring it up again.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of gets worse as the movie goes on too. Like there's just more signs where it's just like this like feels like a fever dream.
Secretly, this movie's all just about his insanity.
That would explain the armadillo. Yeah. and Clint Eastwood, I guess. So this is like the main reason I would say this movie appealed to me so much, particularly when I had rediscovered it at the end of high school for me. I talked about this a little bit in our episode on The Way of Kings if you've seen it or listened to it, but that was a point in my life where I was getting into a pretty big slump. And a big part of that was just this sense of like not really knowing who I was and feeling like I didn't have a grasp on my own identity really. And so the way that his sort of struggle with that is portrayed and dealt with in this movie really resonated with me. What are your thoughts on the identity crisis aspect?
I was actually just thinking about that because I find that there's not a lot in this movie for me to talk about, but the one thing there is for me to talk about is really important. The struggle to find out who you are is something that everybody goes through. I resonate with his over dramaticism because I do the same thing. I get too dramatic.
I feel like the big question of like who am I is like so relatable for everyone as well, just because you get told all the time just to be yourself, but who is yourself? Like who are you? What do you like? What makes you you? And so I feel like part of those things, like especially like being young adults, are like things that really like help shape you into like what's going on into like the next part of our lives. And even as a kid, like you're still trying to figure out who you are and who you want to be. And I feel like we do that. It's like a common, like, I don't want to say struggle, but it's honestly something we have to do for our entire lives. Like, who am I? Who I want to be? Who do I want to continue to be? And like, how do I continue to get there? And I feel like Rango really shows you that just trying to be who you think you're supposed to be, like what makes you happy. Because like Rango finds happiness at the end. And I think that's really cool, like how he's able to find that happiness. But also he's able to understand that being who he is, true to himself, is who he's supposed to be.
No.
Yeah, it's a very unique way to go about it that I feel like you don't see in a lot of movies like what you were talking about. And I particularly love, there are a lot of movies, I feel like particularly kids movies and animated movies that have the sort of lie reveal plot line. I can't think of any off the top of my head except for Over the Hedge. Over the Hedge does it, right?
Liar reveal?
Yeah, we're like, because, Rango or RJ, if you're looking at Over the Hedge, you're like putting on this persona for the whole thing. And then there's this like, oh, the truth comes out and they realize that he's not who he said he was or whatever. And it can be kind of tedious. But I love the way that it's done in this movie because nobody really drives him out except for himself. And, the Rattlesnake Jake, but that's slightly different. None of his friends were like, oh, I can't believe it. I don't want to see you anymore. Like, get out of here. He did that to himself.
Yeah.
Because at that point, he had proven himself to them, and they cared, but they didn't care that much. And when he came back, there wasn't really this moment of like, oh, we need to reconcile this, because they all understood who he was, even if he didn't at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the movie, you can see he starts off very much putting on this persona. There's a callback to the scene that we just watched when he's in the saloon where he's like, this is my opportunity to come up with my identity.
Yeah.
And it's a very fun scene. I could quote the entire thing from memory, and I have done it many times. But I love how like throughout this movie, as you see, he gets to know these townspeople more. He cares more about what's going on. You see like this becoming less of a facade and more of just like who he naturally is.
That's a refreshing change of the trope too, because most of the time the facade usually leads to somebody feeling like super imposter syndrome, and the entire movie is just all about how you shouldn't lie. But this movie is more about how you should choose who to be.
Right. Yeah, and again, like that, I don't even know if I can completely articulate how or why, but that has really resonated with me when I was feeling a similar thing of just like not knowing who I was. Because I guess it's just this idea of like, well, it doesn't really matter. Just go out and do something. You know, do what you think that you should do or that you need to do, and be who you want to be. It's not always that simple, but it kind of is sometimes. You know, we have a lot more control over who we are and our own destiny, so to speak, than I think we realize a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I also love how it like normalizes as well. That like you're not gonna get it right the first time, and I love how like even Rango like changes his identity so much throughout the whole movie of like, who am I? Well, I could be anyone, and it's like, well, he finds out who he is at the end, but he didn't get it right the first time, and I love how it normalizes that because I've had to switch my degree 3 times. It's just like, oh my gosh, like I cannot tell you like who I want to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I think it's really cool, like how it normalizes that as well and makes more comfort in the fact that you don't really know. Like there's always going to be change.
Yeah. I also just have to say that this movie is masterful at how it presents itself. That it really does sucker punch you with the deeper stuff in a way, but it's still silly enough that you almost don't notice. And that's what I love about some movies is you could go through watching Rango and you'd never say, this is like the deepest thing I've ever seen until you actually take the time to sit back and think like, wasn't that what you said when you first watched it? You were like, that movie was weird, but then you watched it again and then you're like,
Yeah, you revisit it after you've had an identity crisis or two, and it hits a little different.
yeah. Which makes me say we should watch that second clip now. Because
Golden Guardians. The alabaster carriage. The spirit of the West. Excuse me, Mr. Spirit, sir?
Ah, there's a beaut. Sometimes you gotta dig deep to find what you're looking for. So you made it.
Is this heaven?
If it were, we'd be eating Pop-Tarts with Kim Novak.
Yeah, no kidding. What are you doing out here?
Searching, same as you.
I don't even know what I'm looking for anymore. I don't even know who I am. Hey, they used to call you the man with no name.
These days, they got a name for just about everything. Doesn't matter what they call you. It's the deeds make the man.
Yeah, but my deeds just made things worse. I'm a fraud. I'm a phony. My friends believed in me, but they need some kind of hero.
Then be a hero.
Oh, no. You don't understand. I'm not even supposed to be here.
That's right. You came a long way to find something that isn't out here. Don't you see? It's not about you. It's about them.
But I can't go back.
Don't know that you got a choice, son. No man can walk out on his own story.
That clip is so ridiculously deep compared to the rest of the movie that it's almost like unfair. Like I'm going through watching this movie like I don't have to pay much attention, and then there's like this bomb right in the middle.
One of my favorite things about it is they put like that scene is him having some weird fever dream vision of Clint Eastwood searching for fish hooks with a golf cart. Like they made it the most ridiculous, goofy scene and did not play it off as a joke at all, and somehow just made it work and just be like the emotional climax of the movie. That is insane to me that they pulled that off.
That is what makes this movie so freaking nuts, that they could do something like that and that nobody questions it.
Yeah, like you're so invested in that movie that like the ridiculousness of it does not take you out of the now.
And you're still like, whoa, good. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like you start laughing because he calls the golf cart an alabaster carriage, and then it just like get really deep, and you're like, oh.
Do I react to this? There's so many banger lines. Like, It's the deeds that make the man.
It's like Rango realizing what we can already see as the audience, where we've seen like his actions defining him and him becoming a genuine hero, even if he still sees himself as this imposter. And I love, like, for me, like that scene is incredible, but the payoff of it for me is a little bit later when after he sees Las Vegas and he realizes what's going on and pieces everything together, and the weird Doc Ock armadillo is there, and he repeats that to himself. He says, "No man can walk out on his own story. I'm going back." And the armadillo asks him why, and he says, "Because that's who I am." Every time I watch that, I just like get chills because it's such a good payoff of him realizing what we as the audience can already see. Maybe that's not who he was at the beginning of the movie, but that's who he's become.
I love also that what he becomes comes from the fact that he just goes forward and he realizes that it's his actions starting from this point on, and that, like Clint Eastwood says, it's not about you. Even though you're embarrassed or scared or worried, it doesn't matter. You still need to be the person who steps up. And if you do that, that's what helps you finally realize who you are.
I don't know about you, but like something I noticed, because I love like metaphors, especially in the movie, and how he drew himself in a box the first time and then Clint drew himself in a box the second time. And I always think that sometimes like when we're trying to develop like who we are or who we want to be, we put ourselves in a little box of like, this is who we're supposed to be, or like, this is who I have to be, or this is what I'm meant to be. But like how Rango was like, well, I can't be the hero. He's like, you have to be. Like, this is like something you can do. And I think that's really cool, like how he gets that box, but he's able to get out of it and is able just to make his own self outside of what he normally wanted, which is like a cowboy or a sheriff. He was able to make himself the hero, even though he didn't really want to be that.
Yeah. Also, like, to an extent, you can't escape from your life. You've built it. You have a story. You have to participate in it. And because he's able to realize that, he also realizes that he just has to be himself. There's no other option. You can't find a word to label who you are. You just have to say, well, that's who I am. I'm the person in the box. That's like, how else do you say it?
I do like that there is an element of like dropping a mask to some extent, because he does behave differently when he comes back. He is brave and he is a hero and he's going to try to save these people, but he's a lot more like honest with the fact that he also is kind of an idiot sometimes and doesn't always know what he's doing. One of my favorite jokes, just from a comedy standpoint, but also from like the storytelling standpoint, is when he and Beans get thrown in the vault and starts filling with water. I've seen this movie so many times and I chuckle every time. Is he like turns and he's like, "Okay, don't worry, I have a plan." Zareth starts pounding on the glass, yelling for help. And then there's like pauses and turns around, he's like, "Okay, plan B." Like, maybe it's not actually funny, but I think it's funny.
It's funny.
That's one of my favorite jokes in the movie. But I also feel like it demonstrates that idea of like, he's not pretending that he knows what he's doing all the time anymore. And he's embraced who he is. And it's sort of this combination of just the clueless lizard at the beginning and the hero that his experiences have turned him into.
I also like that he learns it just because somebody was willing to just tell him straight up. Like, Clint Eastwood does not mince words. It's the cowboy vibe really lends to the brashness and matter-of-factness of what he has to say. He's just like, suck it up, go do it. And I think there's, to an extent, we've got to learn to accept those words a little bit more. I had a teacher once who told me when I got in trouble with an ex-girlfriend, he's taught me a really important lesson. He said, well, the reason she's mad is because she is feeling sad and she cares about you. And so what you need to do is just be the bigger man and go and say sorry to her. I said, really? And he said, imagine that she were to keep being mad and you just say sorry again. And then she's still mad and you just say sorry again. How long can you be mad when somebody just says sorry for everything that you are accusing them of doing wrong? And it kind of made me realize, like, I am making a bigger deal out of this than I need to be. And if I were just to be the bigger man, you can still make boundaries with people, but like, sometimes you just need to do the right thing. And it's not about you. You don't really get a say in the matter. You can't walk out on your own story.
I also love like how like with both of like your perspectives as well that we don't have to be perfect. Like Rango shows that so well that like being perfect is not the vibe. And he is very much like being perfect is not what I'm supposed to be, but being who I am, that's who I'm supposed to be. And so I feel like along that as well, like in your story, like you weren't perfect, right? Like obviously you had to go and say sorry, or like we have to say sorry for the things that we do sometimes. But because we're not perfect, or like when Rango and Beans, like obviously he messed up the first time. That's why he had a plan B. And I think it's just so funny, like how we're able to understand and realize that when we're becoming who we're becoming, for being the person that we want to be, that we're gonna make mistakes, we're gonna mess up. But just like in the movie, we can laugh at them and we can just be like, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing that changes too is he stops worrying about who he is, and so he is able to laugh about things and is able to, you know, go in head first, not knowing what's going to happen.
Now, I don't know how to super smoothly segue into this, but we cannot record this episode and not talk about Rattlesnake Jake.
He's such an icon.
Genuinely one of the best character designs anybody has ever put to fiction. I don't know who had that idea, but they did not get paid enough. And just like everything, like, again, things you notice when you've watched the movie a million times. Like on his character model, all of his scales are like individually modeled. Like you can see them moving individually. The voice acting from Bill Nye is just like incredible. It's just the coolest design.
And the gun.
Yeah, the rattlesnake with a Gatling gun is just peak. That is so true.
When Rango stares in his eyes, that is like the most detailed I think I've ever seen some cartoon eyes in my life.
It's so good. It's so good. But I love the role that he plays in like Rango's character arc, where he shows up. I mean, he could swallow Rango whole. He could shoot a million bullet holes in him, right? But really what he does to destroy him is just like expose his lies and be like, get out of here. Like you're a fraud. You've been lying to all these people, and just like completely breaks him down. And again, to himself, like I don't think the townspeople really cared that much.
And it's also the point of most fiction is the real evil is not the guns, it's not the monsters, it's just the people who have the guts to show you what you're afraid of.
And ultimately, the way that he beats Rattlesnake Jake, he has this whole plan and everything, but it's just that he comes into who he is, and he is, puts off the facade and just confronts Jake, and Jake respects that. He's like, okay, you're who you say you are now.
And then he's able to actually show the real coward, which is the turtle guy who just wants money and is a punk. And the stupid turtle.
The way they take away is so scary, by the way. Like that. It's my dreams.
It's so cool, though. I'm glad you brought up the turtle, because that was another one. Like, I don't know how to segue into this, but one thing that I need to say about that turtle, because I love so much, is that the movie never treats him like he's not the villain. It never talks down to the audience and trying to pretend that he's not evil.
Not the twist villain.
That you're just watching Rango trying to figure it out. Yeah. And even then, there's not this moment where like this aha where he's like, oh, the mayor is evil. You just like see him gradually coming to understand it. And then they come back from their whole journey, and then he just goes and confronts the mayor. And I love that, because so many animated movies think they're so clever for their twist villain, and it's either like it just doesn't work, or it's just like insulting that they think that we believe that this person is not the villain. But in this case, doesn't talk down to the audience at all. He's like, from the first line that he says, you're like, oh yeah, this dude is the villain. He is evil, but our protagonist is too much of an idiot to realize.
I love how we can just talk about this movie and we just automatically laugh this much just because it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's a great time.
I think with all of that being said, there's obviously going to be intricacies that we missed. Like I said, they put bombs worth of depth in that one Clint Eastwood scene. So if you have anything that you think is deep about Rango, please share. We would love to hear it. And I think that's all we've got for you today. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you around.
See ya.